Rolling, and just give me one more count.
10, 9, 8.
Okay, that's good. Okay, where were we? We were in high school.
We were in high school.
Meeting Dad. Okay, so tell me about that first year or so dating and what that was like, and what do you remember? What can you tell me anyway?
I don't know, we dated.
Hold on one sec. I think your necklace broke. Your necklace broke.
No, it's the hook came undone.
Oh. All right, fix the okay. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Back to Dad.
Gee, we just did normal kinds of dating stuff. We went to the movies. The first date we had was at a movie on City Line, which is out of our neighborhood, but it's where we went. We went with Jack. Jack was with, I think he might have been with a girl named Velma. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I think it was Velma. Might be somebody else, but we double dated and we went to the City Line. He had on a yellow sweater, pullover, a collar, shirt under it. Looked good. We would go to Barson's for ice cream over there on Haverford Road, right here, right below City Line. I mean, who would have thought that someday we'd be living here, spend the rest, It's so bizarre. We liked going to see British movies, Alec Guinness, the Lavender Hill Mob, and we used to go see them at another movie. I think it was the Lansdowne, and it was around 63rd and Lansdowne Avenue, or maybe higher number, maybe I don't remember. There was a diner next to it. We went bowling. We went to Garris Lanes on 69th Street. There was a place next to it everybody went to, a burger place, onion rings, fried stuff. What the heck was that called? I don't remember. But we did that a lot. We went to school dances. We did. It was so we were so young. We just did things teenagers did, things like that. I don't know what else to tell you.
Do you remember being voted cutest couple, or do you remember being voted cutest couple? Or what was it, cutest couple?
Oh, yes, we certainly were cute. For our senior yearbook, they had people that voted for cutest couple, most likely to succeed, and all that kind of stuff. And we were the cutest couple. And we were.
You were pert.
Pert, yeah. Somebody wrote pert. I did not, being on the yearbook staff, I wanted that pert out, but they said, no, we like it. So my English teacher was the sponsor, Mrs. Ide. I had fun. I was co-editor of the yearbook staff. Co-editor, assistant, with another guy called Paul Van Boon, who was about my height. Paul was a trip.
So you dated Dad at this time. You dated Dad, but did you have other boyfriends as well at the time?
I dated some people off and on. Yeah, definitely.
No one memorable?
Nobody I would love to remember, no. Particularly, there was some other guy that didn't, probably before Dad, there was another guy, Frank, I think his name was. I met him at a dance at, I think it was Holy Cross. There was a church in Springfield called Holy Cross, and Saturday nights they would throw dances. And we would all go. That is, my friend Yvonne, and Dottie, Dolores, but we called her Dottie, and Gail. And our fathers would take turns driving us. Each Saturday they would rotate. They would drop us off and pick us up. We did a lot of that kind of thing. So I think I met some guy there, went out with him a little bit, but he was a little too wild for me. So I didn't like it. He eventually, I think, dropped out in school and went to the Air Force. Not my type. Not my type. I don't know. I had a few dates with a guy named Charlie who was shaped like an eggplant. He was kind of nice, but he was so boring. Mr. Bland. He was part of that group too. He was the guy that went to an auto show with your dad and Jack and got into a little tiny sports car and couldn't get out. It was cruel of them to laugh that loud, but but he was so bland. It was like, oh, okay, fellas, boring. It was really boring. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a guy in college too. He was a nice guy, but it was never. It was a friend more than a. It wasn't a romance at all. It was in a few classes. We did some stuff together, but it was never really big.
So Dad was the guy.
Huh?
Dad was the guy.
I don't know. Dad, I'm not sure what he did. I think he had a girlfriend before me, but that didn't interest me. It's before my time. Who cares? I was very practical. I'm just not. I don't get into diva stuff.
Before we move on from high school, is there anything about high school? Anything you want to say about high school before you move on to college, about the experience?
No, I enjoyed my high school. I don't know if everybody does, but I had a blast. I had lots of friends. I was in all these activities. I did everything there. I never killed myself with the work. I just, like I said, it wasn't particularly a difficult school, but there was that core of us who were in, better classes. We hung out together. We had a good time. And we did lots of stuff. We had fun. We really had fun. I look back on it now and I think, wow, that was a nice time of my life. You look good. I was thin. What was there to like? It was not, school was fun. I did enjoy it.
Did you know at that point, or do you have an idea of what you wanted to do in high school?
I thought very seriously of majoring in journalism. I wanted to write. I wanted to write for a paper or a magazine or something like that. Yeah, I generally got talked out of it. Counselors, then, it was the 50s. Women don't do that. You have to be too tough, and you're not going to be accepted. You will, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't blame them. It's, I think if it had been that much of a burning passion, I would have maybe said, well, the hell with it. I'm going to do it anyway. But then the school said, well, if you're going to do that, and you want to major in English, the schedules can conflict a lot. It's not going to be that easy. And I just said, oh, the hell with it. I liked the idea of teaching, so I decided to major in English because I figured I could read my way through college without too much pain. That's what I did. I liked college, of course, was a different ball game. It was a different ball game. I was completely out of my element there. You went to Penn and Ivy League. I was totally out of it. Lots of very wealthy kids from private schools, and it was very intimidating to me, and they, of course, had a better background in some stuff. I didn't find high school particularly challenging, so, but college was. College was. It was a tough transition. And because at that time, high school, Philadelphia schools were on term schedules, so that you were, I graduated in January, but colleges started in September, so I had to come into the middle of the year of the courses. People had already been there for 6 months and try to catch up. In the first semester, I made terrible grades, the first time in my life, and it was a struggle. I just, it was hard to keep, and I was really worried about all these other kids. It took me a while to figure out that a lot of these kids were dropping out, and I was still there, But as you get into it, you get acclimated. Oh, okay, this is what I have to do. Okay, and you just rise to it. You have to.
Did you even think you were going to college? When you were in high school, did you think I'm...
Oh, definitely. There was never a question in my mind. It was never a question. No, I was going. I was in the academic track, so-called, and did that. But it was a question, too, of affording stuff. My parents didn't make bunches of money. So, I don't know. I took a test at Temple for a Temple scholarship. And then I also, which I won, they were really annoyed that I went to Penn, but then I had gotten a full scholarship to Penn and won that. So between Temple and Penn, and my father said Penn, I was not sure I wanted to do it because a lot of my friends were going to Temple, and I probably would have been more comfortable there. The kids from my neighborhood went to Temple. But Penn, of course, had a lot more prestige, and Pop wanted, they're going to pay for everything. I said, well, the other school would have paid for everything too. No. So he did that. But I did feel out of my element there. I never really felt at home there. I've never had any great attachment to the school. I got a good education, and I appreciate that. And I had some really good professors, and I enjoyed most of the courses in there. A few exceptions. Economics. I told you about economics, right? I had no clue what this guy was talking about, none at all. He's up there talking, and he said, we're going to have 3 tests, and that will be we'll average out those 3 exams, and that's going to be your grade. So the first one, I got a B. Man, I was dancing. I couldn't believe I got a B. And then the second one, I got a C. And the third one, I got a D. I didn't know much economics, but I could spot a trend. Thank God there wasn't a 4th test. I did real, but the rest of the courses I did well. I minored in history, majored in English. And what was nice about majoring in English at that time, I don't know whether they still do that or not, but they encourage you to do a lot of writing. And often they would give you a choice of taking a final in English or writing a paper instead. I always took the paper. Always, because I block. You give me the thing, and then an hour later I think, oh yeah, I knew all about that, but I didn't, I'll block. So it was easier for me to write. I loved it. I've developed a whole system for turning these things out. I used to carry around cards, index cards, and we'd do the research, and I had a real system. You put a kind of a title on it about what that piece of information was, whatever you were researching. The source at the bottom, maybe just a number, because every book that I would get, I would write a number, and this is the book and do in the bibliography. So all I had to do with the card was to say generally what it was about, that's the thumb, write my notes, and just do it. And then at the end, I would end up with this pile of notes, and I would take the titles of it and sort them like this, so that all of the things on that particular side, this percent, and then figure out where they all belonged, so that it would make sense, and then put them all together and just keep turning them over and typing, turning them over. It would almost write itself. And then I had all these already written bibliographies.
That noise.
I don't know. I don't hear it. I don't have my hearing aid.
It's
What does it sound like?
a hum.
Oh,
It's not that.
it's on now. Did you hear a whistle? It was my hearing aid. It just popped back
It
on.
wasn't a whistle. It was a.
Things fall on the roof too.
I don't hear it anymore. It was a hum.
Oh,
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
yeah,
Okay, your system.
yeah. I mean, so the system was foolproof, and because I made a bibliography card as I went along, all I had to do was get them all, put them in order, and just type it, and I was done and out of there. You know, the trick was getting something that was interesting to write and doing something with it. You know, I mean, not that, but if you do it that way, you could organize a massive information very easily. I would spread it out over a whole table in the library and just deal it out. You know, this goes with this goes with this, and then you have each section of it, and you just, well, this isn't going to make sense. So you pull out the terrible, you know, the things that really don't tie into what you were doing. Man, I had it made. I would do paper after paper after paper, no trouble at all. Didn't like the test. Just give me a paper to write, and I was home free.
Before computers.
Yes.
So at this point, from freshman year through senior year, you're thinking, I'm going to be an English teacher.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
So that never wavered. That never wavered.
Well, no, once I decided I wasn't going to get into journalism, then that was where I was going to be. I was going to be a teacher and teach English. No, it did not waver. Nice thing about Penn is they didn't waste you a whole lot of time in doing these dorky education courses. You had to have a certain number of credits in order to get the degree, but they would, in your senior year, they would, you would take one, it would be worth 12 credits, because they wanted you to major in their major. So I took a lot of the English, which I loved it. I read stuff all the time. That was great. I did do a lot of that, because you had these pesky courses like geology. You had to have a science of some sort. I had this. We did, the geological ages. We had this geology teacher who I swear his head was always in a dig somewhere. I don't know what this guy was. He had him after lunch. And evidently the last thing he did before he came back to class was visit the John, and he would never remember to zip his zipper. So he had close attention in there. We'd all wait. And then he would realize maybe halfway through, and he would turn to the blackboard and go, he was something. I don't know. It was, dorky course.
So at this point, you're living at home. You're out in the dorms, right?
No, I lived at home because, as my parents said, what do you want to do there? You can't do here. Young girls, you don't move it out away from their homes unless they have some ulterior motive. No, sir. So it was like 4 more years of high school. I would have liked to have lived away very much, which is why I wanted you two to do that, because I missed a great deal of my college life. I went to school on the trolley and took my courses and came home again. That's how it was. I got involved in the student union, which was kind of neat. That was fun. You did activities and things, but I didn't do as much, the extracurricular stuff that I did in high school. All that. Now I had to get serious. Yeah, it was a good education, but I felt no attachment to the school. Never felt part of it. And you were never, if you were a commuter, as I was, they used to call us brown baggers because we carried lunches in brown bags, you were not invited into groups. You were not part of it at all. You were very much set aside. It was not a fun experience. It was not a fun experience at all. You know, and I did not feel part of it. You know, some of these people were, I see their names once in a while. If you ever want to get a sense of inferiority, you read your alumni magazine, you know. You know, some guy you blew off in history class is now, you know, president of the Intergalactic Bank of the Universe. You know, but Daddy was before him is the unspoken, you know. They all do these wonderful things. It's I had an interesting moment a week or so ago. I actually picked up it's in the library, and I saw this biography of Whoopi Goldberg. I said, "Oh, that looks like fun." So I read the thing, and I'm looking at this name, and I said, "Man, the author, man, that name is familiar." And it didn't say that much in the book, so I looked him up. I Googled him. That guy was in my class at Penn. He used to be this geeky guy. Now he has written like 100 books, literally 100 books, and he specializes in entertainment. He's like consultant when they have the Oscars or something. He's written all of these kinds of things. You know, so, you know, you read in the alumni, you know, these people that now have published all these things and have run all these things. I mean, I did my thing too. You know, I had an interesting job and I enjoyed it. I loved it. But boy, you read some of the stuff, like I said, the Intergalactic Bank of the Universe.
Where's Dad during this period?
Pardon?
Where's Dad during this period?
The first 2 years, he was in the Navy. He had been a naval reservist in high school, and he went into active duty the first couple of years. We used to write back and forth. Like I said, I did, you know, see a couple people, but and then when he came back, he went to school at night. I said to him, you know, if you, even when after we got married, I said, if you want to go full time while I'm still teaching, you know, he said, I don't want to do that. But he went at night. He went at night. It was grueling because he was gone alone. But when I was teaching, I was also really busy because I had the early shift. There were so many kids in school at that time. These were the baby boomers. That they had 3 shifts in the high school taught at South Philly High. And always the new people, like me, got the early shift. You had to be in the building by 7:20. And remember, I didn't have a car. I went by public transportation. It took me an hour and 3 vehicles to get there. So I was there early. If you've ever taught a teenage group of kids at 7:30 in the morning, you haven't lived. They are not there. But they are quiet. So I would teach all day, and then if there were meetings for students or, you know, or faculty, you had to wait till the last shift ended. So I would do that, and then of course teaching English, I had 200 students divided over 5 classes. You had 40 in a class, that's what they had. It was mobbed, you know, and they had 3 shifts. And I did not even have a room, a classroom. I was what they called a floater. They didn't have enough classrooms for the teachers, so if Teacher X, who had reached enough seniority to earn a classroom, taught 5 periods a week, during the day, and there were 8 periods altogether. There were 3 periods that person wasn't in there, so the floaters would move in. So I would have to pack everything up, and I would go for this period at that class, and then down another floor of this class. I'd carry everything with me. You know, it was 5 floors. It was a mammoth school. It was mammoth, really big. I don't know. I'd lost my train.
I was just talking. Well, you actually made the transition from college, and I guess once you graduated college, you.
Well, I was determined to be an English teacher, and that's what I did. I did student teaching the last term. They gave you a ton of credits for that to make up for the state requirement, you know. I student taught over in Upper Darby High School under a guy named John Boyd. Big bear of a guy. Very, very patient. He was so nice. He really taught me a lot. And very tactful. I once made some statement in front of the class, and you know, he didn't twitch, but after class he said, you know, tomorrow I want you to do something for that class. He said, what you said wasn't, the facts were there, he said, but you had them totally reversed. So you want to go back and tell them. But he would never, it was always very, you know, he had a good teaching technique, and I liked it. I wished I had taught with him after I had taught a year or so, because then I knew what I was looking for. You don't know. You know, you don't really know as a student tricks that you use to get the kids to do things, or how to be more creative and the rest of it. But it was nice, but I found teaching very difficult. I liked teaching, but there was so little teaching that you do in a school like that. It's paperwork and parents and meetings and discipline, constant discipline, always trying to get kids to settle down and listen. And of course, being a newbie, they gave you the worst kids. You didn't earn an AP class until you were there for a while, so you got kids who weren't really happy to be there. I mean, I used to get notes from parents that said, Raymond will not be, I got this once, I saved it for years, I don't know what happened to it. Raymond will not be in class today because he has to be in a lineup. And if he's chosen, he will not be in school for the next 4 months. Okay, Raymond. And I didn't see him for 4 months. Somebody picked him up. I mean, it was an incredible place.
This is South Philly High?
Huh?
This is South Philly High?
South Philadelphia High. You know, I had some classes I enjoyed, but I used to come home and cry all the time because I thought, well, what else can you do? And I'd go back the next day because I thought, I don't know how to do anything else. You know, not knowing. You know, don't forget, I started teaching. I was 22 years old. I had kids who were only 3 or 4 years younger. I was a senior high. You know, mothers would come in and say, I don't know what to do with John. What do you suggest? And I'm thinking, you're asking me? I don't know.
Yeah.
No clue at all. I would have been better older after I had kids, you know, and then it was different. The kids scared me. Some of them were very tough. Some of them were just really funny, too. I mean, I had a few classes where they just cracked me up all the time. So and they knew that, and so that's what they were to do, to make me crack up. But I didn't have a great experience. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was really glad to leave it. When I had opportunities to teach adults, when I was working in title, they were great. I had a blast with that. That was great because they were there. They wanted to hear you. Kids don't want to hear. Do you think they want to hear about the Midsummer's Night's Dream? You know, they live in in the projects down there. You know, and I didn't know how to make it relevant. I didn't know how. It was not their fault. It was mine. I came out of a high school. Well, I say it wasn't academically inclined, but it wasn't a tough school, you know. It was the kids that I described to you in my neighborhood. So, and I had this vision of doing the same thing. Well, this was a different school, these were different kids. These were tough kids, some of them. Like Raymond there in his lineup, that type of stuff, that happened all the time. And if they liked you, sometimes it was worse. Some teacher said, my God, somebody handed me a box of stamps. And I said, where did you get this? Oh, don't worry, we love you, so we got it. They stole it somewhere. I mean, I had one of my buddies there who had been with me at Penn, Arlene, she said, you're never going to guess what happened in my class today. She said, you know that girl that always walks around with that fake leopard coat? Yeah, she said, the Vice Squad came in and took her out of my class. She said, and her mother is doing the same thing. They're prostitutes. She said, well, the family that plays together stays together. They actually came to the classroom and yanked her out. It was not a world I was used to. I mean, while we didn't have tons of money there, we had families. You towed the line. You went to church. You obeyed stuff. There were rules. These kids unfortunately didn't come from that at all. Some did. It's a mixture. It was at that time of kids who were children of professional people and business people, a lot of business people, and a lot of tradespeople and that sort of thing. But there were a large percentage of kids who came out of the projects. We had a class trip. They went on a bus. They went out of the city. They had never been out of the city. They had never seen a house that wasn't attached to another house. They couldn't believe it. Oh, it's just like the pictures. Yeah. That's sad.
This is the same this is the same school that Pop-Up went to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, when he went, it was a boys' high and a girls' high. My building was a new building, and it was, co-ed and had been for many years. I actually taught in the same department with a guy who had him. He was absolutely destroyed to hear about it from me. Oh my God, he said. I said, my dad remembers you. Oh, jeez, he said. It was a very big school. When I tell you there were 32 teachers in the English department, you get a feel for the size of it. Wow. And how overwhelming it could be. I mean, I had classes where I had to pray for people to be absent so everybody could have a seat. Otherwise, I had to seat them on the radiators. There was it was that crowded. It was that, and that's very hard. And then with an English, you're constantly grading. It didn't matter how long I was at school. When I came home, I had 200 essays to grade, and tests in English and spelling and grammar and all the rest of that stuff. It's. I've told you some stories about one. I had one, not a bad class, and we had struggled all through Midsummer Night's Dream, and I don't know whether you ever read it. It involves this group of two couples, and he likes her, and she likes him, and he likes her, like in a circle, and there's this group of woodland fairies, Oberon and Titania, and then this guy named mischievous fairy named Puck. And if you don't think I practiced pronouncing his name, I did very much. And I dragged these kids through this whole thing, and they hated it. And I tried to make it, And finally, at the end, I said, you have to have learned something from this. Give me one thing you've learned. And the voice in the back of the room said, don't fool around with fairies. Okay, that's a start. You're talking woodland fairies, aren't you, Joe? Or the poetry class, and he might have even been the same guy. He was just that kind of guy. We were doing poetry and things like onomatopoeia, where the word sounds like it is, and I wrote onomatopoeia, and everybody's in stunned silence. And I repeat it, onomatopoeia. Voice in the back again says, welcome to my village. how can you not crack up with kids like that? But I had not a lot of those classes. It was classes that they called modified. That is, they were in school, but they were never going to make a regular diploma. They pretty much told you do whatever you want, which was, I did things like teach them how to read the want ads and write a letter of application or fill out. I got lots of applications, job applications, and had them fill them out, and tell them, no, you're not going to be able to write that, and they were, they were not bad in a sense, but they were not students. They didn't want to be there, and it was very tough. I was glad to leave that. Maybe in a different school, maybe older, I would have been happier. But for years after, I had these nightmares that I would be in a classroom and I had no idea what I was supposed to teach. And I don't have a lesson plan. What are they talking about? Oh, my God. It was not a fun experience at all. I was glad to leave it. I really was. After training all that time, that whole time, 4 years in there, and then it was not at all for me. I wish I had the guts to do what I had wanted to do to begin with, do the journalism and get in there. But I'd probably be jobless. The newspapers are dying.
Well, took a while to get there.
Did a lot of that, but...
Do you regret?
Huh?
Do you regret not doing it still?
Do I regret not doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think I would have been good at it. It would have been a much more interesting career. And teaching didn't have it for me. I don't know. So I was glad to leave it. And substituting, of course, was pure hell. That's boot camp. That's awful. That's awful.
So you graduated college when?
I graduated college in December 1961. Penn was experimenting with a trimester plan, whereas you went more hours, but they fitted in they called them trimesters. You had the same number of hours, but it was all concentrated. Therefore, instead of getting out later, I ended up graduating December. Graduated December and started teaching in the next week after the holidays. Graduated the end of December. It was, I don't know, it was crazy. It was even in starting college. I graduated in January and I was in college 2 days later. There was no transition. There was nothing, And you were in the middle of the school year, and you had to catch up, So it was a tough beginning. It was a tough ending. Hard transition. You really had to scramble. I had to scramble. Yeah.
And so from January '62, you taught till when?
I taught until 65. That's all, 3 years. Until I got pregnant.
And you had to quit then?
You were not allowed to show. Despite the fact that I had pregnant, I knew they were hiding it, but they were pregnant girls in my classes. But teachers were not to look pregnant. That's how it was in those days. You were not. Oh my, you weren't. I had a friend in the department whose husband was an intern. Wasn't earning much. They didn't earn much in those days, and she was kind of supporting the two of them teaching, and she got pregnant. So she just, as soon as she learned she got pregnant, she started buying clothes two sizes too large, so they were all big and baggy, and you couldn't tell. I mean, she escaped notice until she was in her 7th month. You can, but you were not allowed to look pregnant. And unfortunately, school ended in June. By September, I was definitely showing. I had them in December, so I couldn't go back. So, you know.
We skipped a step before we get to the pregnancy. You got married.
Yes, I did. I did get married. We had a very nice wedding.
What do you remember about the proposal?
Oh, the proposal. Well, I think your father had planned something very nicely, and we were going to go have dinner in town, which was a treat, you know. And we did. It was some nice restaurant on Chestnut Street. So I was excited, and we were all nicely dressed. You had to get dressed in those days. You didn't just go down in jeans. And we got there. Of course, I had no idea what he was planning. And there was a Shriners convention. You know, those guys that run around with these fezzes and the tassels and on. And they were feeling no pain. And they were all in the restaurant. And I just thought it was hysterical. And you couldn't hear yourself talk. And they were just having a great time. And he was getting very much annoyed. But I know, what's the matter? Hey, these guys are crazy. Enjoy it. Oh, I had a good time. So he finally took me home, and he proposed on the front step. Never forgot those guys and their faces. Man, they didn't know how to have a good time. They were all over town. It was just, but they were packed into that restaurant. It was just too funny.
So you have a fondness for Shriners now?
Yes, sort of.
Wait, one second. Do your hook again. I'm afraid it's going to hit the mic otherwise.
Okay.
So, do you remember, did he actually get down on one knee? That's always the question.
No, he did not go down on one knee. No.
Were you surprised? Excited?
I was, excited. Surprised a little bit. Not totally out of the blue when you've reached that point in your relationship. I just didn't know he was going to be doing it then.
When was this, by the way?
July. I think it was in July. It was in the summer. August. No, it was August. Sometime in August. I don't remember the date.
What year?
62. We got married in May, the following May, 63.
How was that? How was that? The wedding?
What? The wedding?
Oh, the wedding.
God, it's hard to even remember. It's a blur. It's really a blur. Everybody has a good time, but it's such a blur. You're so tired by that end too. It was at 3:00 in the afternoon, and you've never seen that church, but I got to tell you, it's got a mile-long aisle. It's huge. It gives you lots of time to think. Gee, I don't know, am I doing this? Sure. Nah. And I went down, I think at least 2 or 3 minutes early, because I said, no, if I wait, I'm going to end up having to go to the potty, and I can't manage this dress. We're going. I said, went to the organist. Are you sure? Yes, now. So it went well. Rita was my maid of honor, matron of honor by that time. I had a girlfriend from college and high school, Madeline, and my cousin Joan, who I probably saw maybe twice after that wedding. She went out west, and nobody's seen her since. Well, they know where she is, but never came back. Bob was in the wedding, and Eddie looked like he was 12. Whew. Interesting. It was a fun wedding. We had a good time. We had a reception downtown. The Fiesta, it was called. I don't know. It was, typical downtown Italian family, potato salad swan type wedding, But everybody had a great time. We just had a good time. Came back to the house. Tons of people were back at the house. We rented a Volkswagen because we didn't have a car. A little blue Volkswagen. And went away with that. We drove up the coast, through New England, Providence, Rhode Island, up through there, Portland. And then we went west to Lake George and came back down. Long trip. It was nice. It was beautiful May. We had this stunning weather. It was interesting. It's nice. It was nice. We came back, started life again.
Yeah. Did you talk about having kids? Or that was...
Only it was sort of a given, when we have kids type of thing. There's never a question, will we or won't we? It was just when we type of thing. I'm amazed at how little thought, how much was assumed, in those days, that now I would think about. Then you didn't. I didn't. Other people did, but I guess I didn't. It was just, that was my path. I didn't question it.
So, I guess you married 2 years.
Yes, 2.5 years when we had David.
How was that?
Oh, man, that was fantastic, You love all of your kids, but that first experience is mind-blowing. Oh, my God,